everyone, Helen here. Welcome to the mousiemakes podcast. It's really lovely that you've stopped by to spend a bit of time with me. I have had such a lovely week. We've had visitors staying with us, as you might remember me saying, like if you watched last episode. And it's been absolutely great to be with them in person. So we last saw them in Christmas 2019. And otherwise, we've just chatted to them on Skype. It's not quite the same. So we have been working very hard at looking after them and taking them to all sorts of interesting places. And we've had a great time. It's almost felt like a holiday to me as well. And I just thought that you might like to come along to those places that I've been to that all have very interesting histories and things. And I will include a bit of my crafting as well. You might see on the table next to me, I have been a little bit busy with the Gnome along. I did manage to fit in a bit of crafting while we had the visitors. And they were quite amused actually, because each morning that they came downstairs, they would say, "Is that another gnome that's appeared?" And it gradually, became more and more as their stay went on. So yes, so I will tell you a bit more about them a little bit later, and also one or two other things that I've managed to make while we've been, travelling places in the car. And if you're ever watching my videos and you just fancy watching particular parts of my videos, you can always look in the description box where there are timestamps, and I'll list the times in the videos and what's happening at that point in the video. And you can just click on the time and then it takes you to that particular spot. I mean, hopefully you don't want to skip over things, but it's more useful actually if you remember, if you at a later date that I mentioned a particular yarn or pattern or something and you want to come back and watch a little bit of the video again. So anyway, I'm just reminding you that they are there. It does take me a little bit of extra time to put them in, but I have found them helpful in other people's videos occasionally. So maybe there might be a time when you find them useful. When I started making these podcasts, I really was expecting that all I was going to be talking about were the things that I was making. So basically it was just going to be a crafty podcast, but it's actually become much more than that. And I just love sharing all the things that I do with you. So it's sort of a combination between a knitting, crochet, crafts podcast and a bit of vlogging as well, although I don't know, but the definitions of those are quite blurred, I think, really. Anyway, so we're going to go out on a few outings. I'm going to show you videos and photos that I took, and I'm going to chat over them and tell you a bit about the places. So the first place we went off to visit was a place called Raby Castle, which is a little bit south of Durham. It's just outside a town called Barnard Castle. And the Raby Castle estate was first owned by a very famous king, King Canute. He's best known for the legend that he failed to stop the tide coming in when he was sitting on the shoreline. And he owned the estate in the early 11th century. He was a Viking king who appointed himself as Emperor of the North. And the castle that we see today was actually built in the 14th century by one of the most powerful families in the north of England, the Neville family. And probably one of the most famous Nevilles was Cecily Neville, who was mother of two kings of England, Edward IV and Richard III. And they owned Raby Castle for nearly 400 years. Around the castle, there's a very, very large deer park. And in the deer park, you'll find red deer, which is actually the largest British wild land mammal, and the smaller fallow deer. And both of these herds include descendants of deer who've been there since Norman times. It's amazing, isn't it? Goodness. The castle, of course, has got some beautiful gardens in it, and we had a really lovely wander around the walled garden, which has been there probably since the Middle Ages and was mostly used for herbs and, you know, medicinal plants and things. But the formal gardens were actually established in the middle of the 18th century. And we had a really, really lovely time wandering around the gardens. The dahlias were particularly beautiful. There were some amazing hedges, and it was a really nice fountain that we stood and watched for a little while. It was really nice. And yeah, it was a lovely place to wander around. And we had a good wander around the deer park as well, and got very close to the deer. It was quite surprising how close we went and were able to watch them. I actually saw an albino red deer, so not very red, but I couldn't quite get really close enough to take any good video or photos, but hopefully you can get the general idea from what you're seeing here. So that was a really nice day out in Raby Castle, and the sun did mostly shine on us, so that was very pleasant. So the following day we decided that we would go and visit Binchester Roman Fort, but in the morning it was absolutely pouring with rain, so we delayed going out and decided to go and have tea at a tea room that my husband and I have been to a few times, called the 50s Vintage Tea Room. The decor is all 1950s, and it's a very lovely place to go and have tea. And the food is great, and I couldn't resist having a cream tea, nice pot of tea, and they use all vintage teacups and plates and teapots and things. It's a really, really nice place to go, and highly recommend it. It's in a place called Bishop Auckland, so if you're ever there, go and visit the 50s Vintage Tea Room. So then we went on to the Roman Fort because the rain did ease off a bit. We were quite lucky actually that it mostly didn't rain on us while we were at the Roman Fort. At Binchester Roman Fort they have two of the best preserved Roman bathhouses in the UK. One of the bathhouses was within the fort, next to the remains of the commanding officer's house, and it's thought that that bathhouse was really for the use of the officers, or at least originally. It's really well preserved. The protective structure that's over the bathhouse, there's been that one there for quite a while, but the one that you see here was replaced in 2018. And it has one of the most intact hypercoast heating systems in the whole of Britain. Hopefully you can see here, so the stacks of tiles that the floor was resting on, and there were a couple of big furnaces that heated the air that went underneath the baths, or the floor of the baths, so it made the water nice and warm. There's also a second bathhouse which is much more recently been discovered, and it's still being excavated, so I can't show you any pictures of that one because you can't go in and get a really good view of it yet. But that one is actually even better preserved than the one you're seeing here, because it has walls still standing to about 6 feet high. So it's really great. So it's a really interesting place, just a small place. It didn't take us all that long to have a look around. And it's just amazing when you're walking in a place where, you know, people nearly 2,000 years ago were walking. I just find that absolutely incredible that we are walking in the same place as them. Binchester was actually was founded in 80 AD, and at the time it was called Vinovia. That's what the Romans call it. And yeah, again, another place I can highly recommend you visiting. Another visit we did was to a place called Belsay Hall, this time north of Durham, so it's in Northumberland, and it was about an hour's drive from here. And Belsay Hall was the home of the Middleton family, and Middletons had lived there since the 13th century. The first owner was apparently Sir Richard de Middleton, who was Lord Chancellor to King Henry III. At the first of all, the family lived in the castle, which is now mostly in ruins. You can see here there's still, the tower is still fairly complete, but mostly it's in ruins. And over the centuries, this castle was extended, and when the emphasis became on comfort rather than defence. So there's various extensions have been made. And so it was a long time before the family decided to sort of upgrade themselves and move to a completely new hall. And Belsay Hall, the building began in 1807 by yet another member of the Middleton family, who was very keen on something that's called the Greek Revival style. It's very plain on the outside, but inside it was very comfortable. And the layout is actually inspired by a Roman villa. So although it's the Greek Revival style, there was no equivalent sort of house layout, so they based it on a Roman villa. The vast gardens around the hall were landscaped at about the same time as the hall was built, and it includes a really sort of romantic quarry garden. It was from the quarry that the stone was cut to build the hall, but then it became a garden, and it's a really great microclimate that allows tender plants to grow there. So it's quite a special, magical place to walk through. The other gardens, the sort of landscape gardens, are really, really lovely to walk through. It's also a big croquet lawn. And I think there is a croquet club, Belsay Hall croquet club, that does actually play games there still. So that was a really lovely visit that we had there. Well, I hope you enjoyed going on those little outings. I've got one more outing for you, which I'll put at the end and put a bit of piano to. I'll not talk over that visit. So now to a little bit of making. Because, yes, as I pointed out, I have got quite a lot more gnome companions than I did when I last spoke to you. I have got a bit carried away, as I always do. I've got a bit carried away. But I'm just loving making them. They're just a really nice little project. And they're just such friendly people to have around. I won't be keeping them all. I'll be giving them away as presents for Christmas. But yeah, I'm continuing on. So when I made the first one, which was this one here, I followed the pattern to the absolute letter, and but I've just changed a couple of things since I've been making them. Where the first change I made, was only for the ones where I decided to put a contrasting rim to the hat. So instead of doing rib in the same colour, I've done garter stitch, and I quite like the way it kind of sticks out a bit more. It sort of emphasises that. So that's a really nice sort of change if you didn't want to do the rib. And the other change that I've made, which I'm doing for all of them, is to the arms, because in the pattern it says to start with the skin colour and then change to the colour of the rest of the arm, so the same as the body. But actually it doesn't really give a very neat arm, and although you can neaten it off by sewing it, it's actually better if you do it the other way round, in my opinion. So yes, if you start with the arm colour and then you finish off with the hand, the skin colour for the hand, you then take the yarn through the 4 loops on your needle, and it just makes a really nice neat end. So apart from that, it's really an excellent pattern and I'm loving it. I haven't bought any more of the Sarah Shearer patterns yet. I haven't been tempted yet, but I am doing the mystery knit along, gnome knit along, that starts in September. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say about the gnomes was just the yarn that I'm using. Obviously, well, I didn't intend, shall I say, to buy any yarn to make them. I just wanted to use old stuff from my stash. But I like the look of the gnomes when they look a bit rustic and not just knitted from plain colours and things. So I had been using up what was left of my Rowan felted tweed, but I've run out of that now, and I decided I'd like to have something like that. I just like the look of that. I love Rowan felted tweed. So I went in search of some suitable yarns and decided that really I shouldn't be paying such a large amount of money for just the gnomes. So I found two absolutely super alternatives to Rowan felted tweed. And the first one is Sirdar Haworth tweed, and the other one is Drops soft tweed, and they're both really lovely. They are, well, as the Drops one says, it is quite soft, so it's a little bit softer than the Rowan felted tweed. So they're not exactly the same, but they're quite similar, and the effect on the gnomes is similar, and so I like that. And I like the soft tweed so much that I decided to make another pair of hand warmers. So I did that and thought, I think I'll make another pair. So I've actually made two more pairs of hand warmers. And actually, when I was making the blue ones, I didn't have enough of the dark blue to do the little edging around the thumb hole. So I decided just to do a contrast around it, and then a little contrasting edging as well, which I like very much. Then I looked at the other pair that I made and decided to do a little edging around there as well. I think that looks really nice. So I think that is the sum total of things that I've made since last week, apart from, oh yes, and I have made, well, one cloth. That's not very interesting, is it really? Very useful though. This was going to be part of the roof to go on the basket that I'm keeping the Enchanted Forest knitted and crochet characters in, but I have changed my mind about doing that. I've decided I'm just going to keep it as the basket. It looks nice as a basket. So I decided I didn't want to waste what I'd done. I didn't want to pull it out, so I've made it into a cloth. So you can never have too many crocheted cloths. Yeah, so I think I was saying to you very recently that I would really love to be able to do some animated stories with my knitted characters, but that I just really didn't have time to do it because it is very time consuming. And then I decided, do you know what? I'm just going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go with the gnomes. So I spent yesterday afternoon having great fun playing with the stop motion animation app that I put onto my phone. And it did eat away a whole afternoon, but I had a lot of fun. And as if I didn't have anything better to do, but never mind. It was fun. And so I'm going to show you my first effort here. This is my very first effort at stop motion animation. So here we go. And then my second effort is here, so very similar. So on both of them I was trying to make the gnomes look like they were doing a dance. And then I also made a little animation to put onto Instagram. So I made it square, although I know you don't have to have them square on Instagram. I've made this one a square one, just of all the gnomes introducing themselves, which hopefully I can show you here. Although with it being square, I'm not quite sure. So hopefully here it is. Yeah, so there we go. My first efforts at animation. Who knows where that might lead? And just before I forget, before we go, I'm very excited to say that the Enchanted Forest story photos that I've been creating over the last couple of months or so, I have now put together into a video with me reading the story. So that will come out very soon. So I hope you're going to enjoy that. I'm very excited to share that with you. So for today, we're just going to go off to the seaside for a little stroll by the sea. And we did, with our visitors, we definitely saved the best weather for that day. And it was just warm and sunny all day. We had a really glorious time first on one beach and then on another beach. And in between times, we had fish and chips. And it was really great. So come along with me to the seaside. Righto then, time for me to say goodbye to you today. I hope well done if you've made it all the way through to here, and I hope you've enjoyed visiting a few places today. I'll be back again very soon to see you. So until then, take care, keep busy, and I'll see you soon. Bye.